Chapter 1. What if the very thing you're running from is the only thing that can set you free? There's a noise you spend your whole life trying to silence. You know the one I mean. It's not the sound of traffic, or the hum of your computer, or the distant murmur of a television in another room. This is a sound from the inside, a low, persistent static in the basement of your being. A chaos, a disorder, a fracture in the perfect marble statue of the world you're trying to build for yourself. We spend our fortunes, we craft our routines, we build our walls, all to keep that noise at bay. We call it stress, anxiety, uncertainty. We medicate it, we meditate it, we run from it in 1,000 subtle ways every single day. But what if I were to tell you, in this quiet space between us, that the crack is not something to be repaired? What if the chaos is not a flaw in the system, but the very thing the system was built to contain? And what if, by finally turning to face it, to truly listen to that strange, disruptive music, you might find a key you didn't know you had lost? Think of it like this. Imagine a man not so different from you or I, standing in his garage on a Saturday morning. The sun is cutting a sharp, clean line through the window, illuminating dancing motes of dust. Everything is in its place. The tools hang in orderly rows on a perforated board. The bins are labeled. The floor is clean. This is his sanctuary. This is order. This is control. And then he reaches for a specific screwdriver, and it's not there. The space where it should be is a tiny, screaming void. And in that moment, the entire edifice trembles. His heart gives a little thump of irrational panic. Irritation flares. The entire peaceful morning is now ruined. It seems so silly, doesn't it? A missing screwdriver. But it's not about the tool. It's about the crack. That tiny absence threatened to let the chaos in. He was running from that feeling his whole life, building this perfect garage to keep it out. And it found him anyway, through the tiniest of holes. This is the illusion of order. We believe that peace is a destination we can arrive at, a state of perfect balance where the noise finally stops. If we just get the right job, the right partner, the right amount in the bank account, the right routine, then we will have achieved it. We will have won. But the philosopher whose echoes we're following tonight, Slavoj Žižek, he points to something far more profound and far more unsettling. He suggests that what we perceive as reality, this stable, orderly, predictable world, is itself a fantasy. A collective story we tell ourselves to protect our minds from the raw, terrifying, and exhilarating real. The real with a capital R. That's his term for it. The real is that unmediated, chaotic, overwhelming mess of existence that exists before we put labels on it, before we structure it with language and ritual and custom. It's the unbearable noise, the scream of the world before it becomes a song. Our entire social order, our identities, our desires, they are not natural. They are not just there. They are constructed. They are a desperate, beautiful, and ultimately fragile attempt to build a dam against the ocean of the real. The laws we follow, the manners we observe, the goals we chase, they are all part of this grand narrative designed to keep the chaos at bay. But here is the secret. The chaos is what gives it all meaning. The crack is not the opposite of the structure. It is the reason for the structure's existence. Without the ever-present threat of the real, our order would be meaningless. A game with no stakes. A wall built in the middle of an open field for no reason. So what are we to do? The answer is not to tear down the wall. That way lies madness. The answer is not to finally achieve a perfect, chaos-free life. That is a mirage. The answer, the deeply counterintuitive and terrifyingly beautiful answer, is to learn to see the crack not as a failure, but as a feature. To understand that the tension itself is the point. The Japanese swordsman Miyamoto Musashi understood this. He didn't seek a battle without risk. He sought to become the risk. He didn't try to eliminate the chaos of combat. He learned to move within it, to make its rhythms his own. His famous two-sword style, Niten Ichi-ryu, wasn't about creating an impenetrable defense. It was about embracing the opening, the void, the moment of imbalance, and turning it into an attack. He wasn't running from the chaos. He was dancing with it. Your life, your quiet struggles, the things that keep you awake in the deep, dark hours of the night. They are not signs that you are failing. They are proof that you are engaging with the real. That low, static hum is the ocean you built your life beside. You can spend all your energy building taller and taller seawalls, terrified of the next storm. Or you can learn the music of the waves. You can understand that the peace you seek is not the absence of the storm, but the skill to sail within it. It is the acceptance that the screwdriver will sometimes be missing, that the project will sometimes fail, that the heart will sometimes break, and that these are not interruptions to a perfect life. They are the very substance of a real one. The chaos is not your enemy. It is the raw material of your freedom. If you spend your life running from the one thing that can truly define you, what kind of life is that? But if you turn and face it and listen, you might just hear, in all that noise, the first notes of your own authentic song. And so we see that the walls we build are not just against the world, but against a truth within ourselves. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If our order is a beautiful fiction, then what about the engine that drives us through it? What about the very compass we trust to guide us? What if the desires we feel so keenly, that ache in our bones, that whisper of more, what if they too are not our own? Chapter 2. Is your deepest desire truly yours, or just a beautiful echo from someone else's dream? We move through our days propelled by wanting. It is the fuel in the engine, the current in the wire. We want a better car. We want a more respectful relationship. We want peace of mind. We want recognition. We want that particular whiskey, that specific view from a mountain cabin, that feeling of arrival. We treat these desires as the most personal, the most intimate parts of ourselves. They feel organic, innate, rising from some deep, essential well of usness. We are what we want. Our desires define us. But what if that's the most sophisticated trick the world ever plays on us? What if the wanting itself is what is wanted from us? Let's stay in that garage for a moment longer. Our man, having weathered the crisis of the missing screwdriver, decides to build something. A birdhouse, perhaps. A simple, satisfying project. He has a desire, a clear goal. He wants to see this thing completed, to sand the wood until it's smooth as silk, to stain it a rich cedar color, to hang it in the old oak tree and watch the wrens move in. It's his desire. It feels like it originated entirely within him. But let's trace the echo backwards. Where did it come from? Perhaps he saw a beautiful one in a magazine, a spread depicting the ideal rustic life. Perhaps his father built birdhouses, and the desire is tied to a memory of childhood admiration, a want for that same sense of competence and peace. Perhaps it's a reaction against the sterile digital world of his job, a desire for something tangible, something real. The desire feels authentic, but its coordinates were mapped long before he ever felt it. This is what Žižek points to with a wry smile. We believe we first have a desire, and then we go out into the world to find the object that will satisfy it. But he reverses the order. It's the other way around. Society, our culture, our advertising, our families, our traumas, they first present us with the object. They show us what is desirable. They create a fantasy of fulfillment. And then we learn to want it. Our desire is not a spontaneous internal eruption. It is taught to us. It is a script we learn to perform. We are recruited into wanting what everyone else has been taught to want. The new iPhone isn't satisfying a pre-existing desire. It is creating a new one, making your old phone seem suddenly inadequate, planting the seed of a lack you never felt before. The most powerful desires are not for things, but for states of being. We desire the fantasy of what the object represents. The luxury car isn't about transportation. It's about the desire to be seen as successful, to feel a sense of arrival, to project an image of control and taste. We don't desire the object itself. We desire the desire of the other. We want to be desired. We want to be recognized. We want to be validated. We want to see in the eyes of others the confirmation that we have chosen the right objects, that we are a person of value. Our desire is a loop. We want what we think others want us to want, so that they will want us for wanting it. It sounds like a dizzying paradox. That's because it is. Think of Musashi again. What did he desire? Victory? Fame? Perfection in his art? Perhaps. But these too are desires placed upon him by the world he lived in. The code of the samurai, the Bushido, laid out a very specific map of what was honorable, what was desirable for a man of his station. To be a renowned swordsman, to be undefeated, to serve a great lord, these were the objects presented to him. But his genius, his legendary status, came from the moment he began to question that very map. He withdrew. He lived in caves. He painted. He wrote. He stopped chasing the desire for recognition and began to forge a desire of his own, one that was so idiosyncratic, so personal, that it became incomprehensible to the society that created him. He wasn't following the desire of the other anymore. He was listening to a different, much quieter signal. He was discovering what he wanted when no one was there to tell him what to want. This is our task. Not to eliminate desire, that is impossible, but to interrogate it. To hold each want up to the light and ask, is this mine or is this a ghost? Did this ache come from within or was it placed here? When you dream of that cabin in the woods, are you dreaming of the cabin itself? Or are you dreaming of the fantasy of solitude and peace that 1,000 movies and novels have sold you? There is a profound loneliness in this realization. It can feel like the floor giving way. If my desires are not my own, then who am I? But within that loneliness is the most incredible opportunity. It is the chance to become a true individual. It is the painstaking work of sifting through the echoes to find your own voice, to ask not what you should want, but what you would want if no one was watching, if no one was going to give you approval, if the whole world vanished and you were left alone with your own heart. That desire, that is harder to find. It's fainter. It doesn't shout, it whispers. But it is the only one that is truly yours. The tragedy is not that we desire, but that we so often spend our lives chasing an echo and never stop to listen for the original sound, which leads us inevitably to the final and most haunting question of all. If we manage to navigate the chaos, and if we somehow untangle our own true desire from the web of borrowed dreams, what awaits us at the end of that road? What is the price of the prize? Chapter 3. What happens to a man who finally gets everything he thought he wanted? We are taught to see the summit. The entire journey is defined by the ascent, the struggle, the sacrifice, the long nights, the relentless focus. It all finds its meaning in that moment when you finally plant your flag on the peak. The promotion is yours. The bank account hits that magic number. The dream house is built. The championship is won. The world looks at you and sees a success. They see a man who has arrived. But you are there, inside the moment. And the moment is quiet. Terribly, deafeningly quiet. The struggle is over. The desire that burned in you for years, that gave every day a purpose, a direction, a fire, is gone. It has been satisfied. And in its place is a void, a stillness that feels not like peace, but like oblivion. What do you do when the wanting stops? This is the secret. No one tells you about success. This is the terror at the heart of the fantasy. We believe that obtaining the object of our desire will bring fulfillment, will suture the wound of our longing. But Žižek, drawing on a long line of philosophers, reveals a brutal truth. Obtainment kills desire. The moment you have the thing, the fantasy that was attached to it evaporates. The luxury car becomes just a car, with its own scratches and monthly payments. The corner office becomes just a room, with a different view of the same problems. The object itself always fails to deliver the sublime satisfaction we imagined. It always betrays the dream, because the dream was never in the object. The dream was in the pursuit, the energy, the purpose, the sense of meaning. It was all generated by the gap between you and the thing you wanted. The gap itself was the source of the power. Close the gap, and the circuit is broken. The light goes out. This is the paradox of desire. We think we want the thing, but what we really want is the wanting. We are in love with the pursuit, not the capture. The chase gives our life a narrative. It gives us a role to play. The striver, the hero on a quest, the man overcoming obstacles. When the quest is over, the story ends. And what is a man without a story? This is the profound melancholy that hangs over every achievement. This is why so many men, after retiring from the careers that defined them, seem to diminish. Why lottery winners so often end up miserable. They got the thing, but they lost the game. And the game was everything. Musashi's entire life was a meditation on this. He was undefeated in over 60 duels. He achieved the ultimate status a swordsman could aspire to. He became a living legend. And what did he do? He walked away. He famously fought his last duel with a wooden oar he carved from a boat oar, against a master with a sharpened steel blade. It was as if he was already transcending the very object of the fight, the victory itself. After achieving the pinnacle of his art, he didn't rest. He didn't bask in the glory. He moved deeper into the void. He wrote the Book of 5 Rings not as a victory lap, but as a way to process the meaning of the journey itself. He turned from obtaining desires to understanding the nature of the path. He found that the true mastery was not in winning the duel, but in dissolving the need to win. So what are we to do? Are we doomed to either eternal, unsatisfied longing or the hollow victory of obtainment? Is the only choice between a burning hunger or a cold ash? The answer lies in a shift of focus. It lies in realizing that the ultimate desire is not for anything, but for a different way of being. The goal is not to capture the prize, but to fall in love with the walking. To find the meaning not in the distant summit, but in the feel of the stone under your boot. The quality of the light through the trees. the ache in your muscles that tells you you are alive. It is to desire the process itself, your life, your work, your relationships. They are not merely vehicles to get you to a destination. They are the destination. The meaning is embedded in the engagement itself. The craftsman who finds joy in the smooth pass of the plane over wood, not just in the finished cabinet. The writer who loves the rhythm of the sentences, not just the published book. The man who finds depth in the daily conversation with his partner, not just in the milestone anniversaries. This is how you disarm the paradox. You don't stop wanting. You simply transfer your desire to the one thing that cannot be obtained and therefore can never be lost, the present moment of your own existence. You desire to be more present, more skilled, more aware, more compassionate within the process itself. That desire is inexhaustible. It never betrays you. The man who gets everything he thought he wanted and finds nothing there is a warning. The man who wants nothing more than to be fully alive in what he is already doing. That man has found a secret that cannot be taken from him. His desire has become a quiet, endless well, and he is finally truly free to drink from it. Have you ever had the feeling that the world is just a little too polished? That the smooth edges of your day, the predictable rhythms of work and conversation, are a thin veneer, and underneath, something wilder, something more true, is scratching to get out? We spend our lives building walls against chaos, don't we? Fortresses of routine. But what if, and stay with me here in the quiet, what if the chaos isn't your enemy? What if the very disorder you've been fighting is the secret source of your vitality? The uninvited guest at the party of your mind, who turns out to be the most interesting person in the room. Chapter 4. What if the chaos you seek to control is the very thing keeping you sane? Think of the last time you felt a true, unadulterated moment of peace. I want you to really feel it. Was it watching a sunset over a still lake? The silent fall of snow in a forest? We are taught to crave that stillness, to see it as the ultimate goal, the placid surface, the untroubled mind. We are sold a dream of control, of order, a life where everything has its place, and the books are balanced, and the heart does not riot. But I want to suggest something to you, here in the dim light, that might feel like a heresy. What if that perfect order is a kind of death, a slow, polite suffocation? And what if the chaos we so fear, the messy, the irrational, the breakdown, is not a monster at the door, but a forgotten part of ourselves, whispering that we are still alive? The philosopher Slavoj Žižek, with his frantic energy and his wild gestures, doesn't just talk about chaos. He embodies it. He is a walking, talking argument against the polished, the seamless, the easily digestible. He doesn't offer you a neatly wrapped package of wisdom. He throws a bag of parts at your feet and says, "Figure it out. It's more fun this way." And he's right. It is. There's a thrill in the struggle, a vitality in the confusion. Imagine your mind not as a tidy library, but as an old, slightly dilapidated house. You know the one. The floorboards creak with the memory of every step ever taken there. The wind finds its way through cracks you didn't even know were there, carrying the scent of rain and distant earth. There's a room upstairs everyone says is haunted, and you never go in. But you always wonder. That house is alive. It breathes. It has a soul. The sterile, new-built apartment, with its white walls and silent air conditioning, is just a box. It keeps the weather out, but it also keeps you in. It seals you off from the world. We do this to ourselves. We medicate our anxieties. We optimize our workflows. We curate our social media feeds to show only the success, only the calm. We sand down our rough edges until we are smooth, pleasant stones, comfortable to hold, but devoid of any defining character. We exile the chaos, but in doing so, we exile a part of our own humanity. Our creativity often lives in that messy room. Our passion, our raw, unfiltered response to beauty and to pain. The Japanese swordsman Miyamoto Musashi, toward the end of his life, did not become a placid, serene master. He became stranger, more himself. He retreated from the world not to find peace, but to engage in a deeper, more chaotic battle. A battle with his own art, with his own spirit. He painted wild, ink-wash shrike birds on scrolls. He carved wooden sculptures that were rough and full of movement. He continued to duel, not for fame, but for the sheer chaotic thrill of the encounter itself. His genius was not in spite of the chaos, but because of it. He understood that the razor's edge of a perfect strike did not come from a placid mind, but from a mind that had made peace with the storm within it. So tonight, as you lie here, feeling the weight of a day spent building order, I want you to ask yourself, where is your chaos? Where did you lock it away? In a forgotten hobby? A suppressed emotion? A reckless thought you immediately dismissed? What if, instead of trying to quiet the noise, you leaned in and listened to its melody? The chaos is not the enemy of your sanity. The true madness might be believing the illusion that you can or should ever be completely free of it. The chaos is the proof of your pulse, the irregular beat that makes the music of your life interesting. Let it breathe, just a little, in the safety of this darkness. No one needs to know. It can be our secret, the beautiful, chaotic truth of you. And as we make peace with the wildness within, we turn our gaze to the self we present to the world. And the unsettling question of who or what is really looking out from behind our own eyes. Chapter 5. Is the greatest illusion of all the comforting story that you are just oneself? We hold on to this idea, don't we? The idea of the unified self, the captain at the helm, the singular I that moves through the world, making decisions, having memories, being you. It's a comforting story, a necessary one even. It's how we get through the day. But in the quiet hours, when the world has hushed and it's just you and the faint hum of the refrigerator, have you ever felt a fracture? A sense that the you who gave that confident presentation at work is not quite the same you who feels a pang of loneliness watching an old film? That the you who comforts a friend is different from the you who seethes in traffic. We explain it away. We call it mood swings or complexity or just being human. But what if it's more radical than that? What if the illusion isn't that we are fractured, but that we were ever whole to begin with? Žižek, with a chuckle and a sharp look, would tell you that the ego is a fiction, a necessary fiction, but a fiction nonetheless. It's a story we tell ourselves to bind together the chaotic swirl of thoughts, desires, fears, and impulses that actually constitute our being. We are not a symphony with a single conductor. We are a crowded room where everyone is talking at once, and the name I is just the one we've given to the loudest, most persuasive voice in the room at any given moment. Think of yourself not as a stone, solid and continuous, but as a parliament, a committee. There is a part of you that wants safety and comfort. There is a part that craves risk and adventure. There is the part that is your father's son, your mother's child, the part that rebelled against them, the part that wants to be a good partner, and the part that dreams of absolute freedom. They are all in there, arguing, debating, forming fragile coalitions to make a decision. The you that emerges is just the winning vote. This is where the concept of ideology, a cornerstone of Žižek's thought, becomes deeply personal. It's not just about political beliefs. It's about the invisible stories we use to glue our shattered selves together. We adopt an identity, the reliable man, the intellectual, the free spirit, and we perform it, desperately hoping the performance will become real. We smooth over the contradictions. We silence the voices that don't fit the narrative. We create a character called me, and we spend a lifetime defending him, polishing his armor, terrified of what might happen if the armor ever came off and revealed not a monster, but just a beautiful, bewildering, and contradictory collection of selves. Musashi understood this. He was the peerless swordsman, the strategist who wrote the Book of Five Rings. But he was also the artist, the poet, the wanderer. He didn't try to force these selves into one coherent whole. He let them exist, side by side, in a tense and productive harmony. His strength came from acknowledging the multitude within. So, what is lost if we ignore this? We lose the richness of our own being. We become a caricature of ourselves, a flat, one-dimensional story. We spend our energy maintaining the facade, terrified of the parts of us that don't fit. But what is gained if we embrace it? A profound sense of freedom. The freedom to be inconsistent, the freedom to change, the freedom to understand that a bad day is not the real you emerging, but just another member of your inner parliament having the floor for a moment. You are not a statue. You are a river, constantly flowing, changing, made of countless drops. Tonight, you can let go of the exhausting work of holding it all together. You can just be, all of you, the brave and the fearful, the kind and the jealous, the wise and the foolish. They are all welcome here in the dark. They are all part of the beautiful, illusory, and utterly captivating story of you. And from the quiet acceptance of the many selves within, we drift to the outer world we've built together, and the hidden, often violent compromises we make to live within its walls. Chapter 6. What silent price does your desire pay to live peacefully inside a civilized world? We are born wanting. It is our first feeling, a desire for warmth, for food, for comfort. And as we grow, so do our desires. They become more complex, more nuanced. We desire love, respect, accomplishment, a certain kind of car, a particular life. We are told that civilization is the process of taming these desires, of channeling them into productive, socially acceptable paths. You can want a raise, but you can't grab the money from the vault. You can desire someone, but you must court them, win them, within the rules. This is the deal we make. We give up the raw, immediate gratification of our primal wants for the safety and stability of society. It seems like a fair trade, but what if the cost is higher than we ever dared to calculate? What if, in smoothing our desires to fit politely into the world, we have sanded away the very thing that made them ours? What have we lost in the transaction? Žižek, peering over his glasses, would point out the violence of this smoothing over. Civilization isn't just a gentle guide for our desires. It is a machine that produces them. It tells us what to want, the latest gadget, the perfect body, the dream vacation. It creates a void within us, a sense of lack, and then conveniently sells us the products to fill it. But it can never truly fill it, because the void is the price of entry into civilization itself. Our true, raw, unmediated desire is too disruptive, too chaotic, too real for the polite fiction of everyday life. So we learn to desire what we are supposed to desire, and our authentic want, that wild, untamable energy, goes underground. It doesn't disappear. It festers. It emerges in strange ways, in unexplained angers, in private fantasies, in a low-level hum of dissatisfaction that we can never quite place. This is the silent price. We have traded our wild, personal desire for a civilized, prepackaged one, and we walk through our lives feeling a ghost of what we've lost. Think of the weight of that. The sheer energy it takes to constantly suppress that wildness to keep the social contract intact. It's the energy of the unsaid thing in the boardroom, the swallowed anger in a traffic jam, the polite smile that covers a heart of grief. This is the violence we do to ourselves every day to keep the world running smoothly. Musashi, in his way, refused to pay this price. He lived on the edges of society, a ronin, a masterless samurai. He rejected the feudal structures that would have dictated his desires, for a lord to serve, for a stable position, for a quiet life. His desire was pure, undiluted, the pursuit of his way. It was an antisocial desire, a dangerous one. It led him to kill and to live a life of hardship. He paid a different price, one of solitude and constant peril. Most of us are not willing to pay that, and we shouldn't be. But we can, in the privacy of our own minds, acknowledge the compromise we are making. What happens if we never acknowledge this? We live a life of quiet desperation, as Thoreau said, wondering why achieving everything we were told to want still leaves us feeling empty. We become ghosts in our own lives, following a script written by someone else. But if we do acknowledge it, if we, tonight, just for a moment, ask ourselves, what do I truly want? Not my family, not my culture, not my job, but me? The question itself is a rebellion. It's a reclaiming. You may not have an answer. The answer may be buried under years of civilized layers. But in asking the question, you open a door. You let a little of that wildness back in. You start to feel the contours of your own authentic desire, not as a monster to be caged, but as a compass that might, if you dare to follow it, lead you to a life that feels less like a performance and more like your own. The world may not change, but your relationship to it will. And that is where true peace begins. Not in the absence of desire, but in the courageous, quiet act of hearing its true voice again. So let these thoughts drift, not as problems to be solved, but as mysteries to be lived. The chaos within, the many selves, the quiet hum of a desire that is truly your own. Let them be. There is no test tomorrow. No answers are required. Only the gentle, generous act of listening to the strange and beautiful echo of your own mind. Sleep now, and know that it's all right here, exactly as it should be. Chapter 7. What if the world's most dangerous illusion is the one that feels like coming home? Close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, not yet, but to remember. Remember the feeling of a long journey ending, the car pulling into the driveway, the key turning in the lock of your own front door, the sigh that comes from a place deeper than your lungs, the weight of the world shrugged off in the hallway. This is safety. This is known. This is the place where you are, unquestionably, you. This feeling, this profound, comforting sense of arrival. What if it's the most sophisticated trick the world has ever played on you? What if the thing that feels most like coming home is the very thing that keeps you from ever truly finding one? We build our lives like houses. We lay the bricks of routine, mortar them with habit. We hang the pictures of our past on the walls and call it identity. We furnish the rooms with opinions we've held for so long they've gathered the dust of truth. And we sit in our favorite chair, in the warm glow of a television's light, and we feel settled, complete. The day's chaos is locked outside the door. This is the ultimate desire, isn't it? A kingdom of one's own, a sphere of control. But the philosopher whispers a dangerous question from the corner of the room. What if this is not a sanctuary? What if it is a theater? And what if you are not the king of this castle, but an actor on its stage, reading lines written by a script you never agreed to, for an audience you cannot see? Think of the rituals, the morning coffee, exactly so. The drive to work, the same route, the same radio station. The way we argue about politics or sports or art, using the same phrases, the same logical formations. As if we are choosing our words, but are instead merely choosing from a pre-selected menu of thoughts available to us. This is what he calls ideology, and it is not some sinister force beamed from a satellite. It is not a conspiracy. It is far more clever than that. It is the invisible architecture of our daily lives. It is the water the fish does not know it swims in. It is the feel of the home, the comfort of the familiar. It works not by forcing us, but by welcoming us. It invites us in, offers us a chair, and assures us that we are free, that we are thinking individuals, all while gently relieving us of the immense, terrifying burden of actually having to choose who we are, from scratch, every single day. The danger is not that the walls will collapse. The danger is that they will hold forever. That you will live an entire life within them, mistaking the boundaries of your room for the boundaries of the universe. That you will never hear the wind outside, because the double glazing is so effective. That you will never feel the rain, because the roof is so sound. The desire for order, for a world that makes sense, is a powerful one. But in satisfying that desire, in building a perfect, coherent world, we must necessarily exclude everything that doesn't fit. The paradoxes, the contradictions, the raw, messy, chaotic bits of reality that are too bright, too loud, too confusing for our well-appointed living room. We exclude them, and in doing so, we exclude a part of what it means to be truly, messily, authentically alive. So tonight, as you lie here in the quiet dark, I want you to consider a strange and unsettling thought. The thought that the next time you feel that wave of relief, that deep, satisfying sense of being home, it might be the precise moment to be most awake. To listen for the faintest crack in the narrative, to look for the seam in the wallpaper, to ask, not with anger, but with a curious heart, whose home is this really, and what lies buried in the garden? The greatest illusion is not the one that frightens us. It is the one that comforts us, because a comfort that asks nothing of you, that requires no courage, that never challenges your assumptions, is not comfort at all. It is sedation. And the world outside the window, for all its chaos and its terror, is waiting. It is real. And it is the only home we've ever truly had. And if that thought finds a purchase in your mind, if the walls of the known world seem just a little less solid than they were a moment ago, then it leads us quietly, inevitably, to the next question. A question not about the world you've built around you, but about the very tools you used to build it. Chapter 8. Could the very stability you've built be a cage of someone else's making? We speak of building a life. It's the proudest phrase a man can utter. I built this, my business, my family, my reputation, this stability. This edifice of accomplishment stands against the entropy of the world. We look at it, and we see strength. We see discipline. We see the triumph of will over chaos. But have you ever stopped to consider the blueprint? When you set out to build this life of yours, whose plans were you following? Did you ever truly choose the design, or did you simply pick from the available models on offer? The model citizen, the reliable man, the provider, the thinker, the rebel. Even rebellion can be a prefabricated identity, sold to you with its own uniform and its own approved set of grievances. The tools we use to construct our stability, the hammer of ambition, the level of reason, the measuring tape of social expectation. Where did we get them? We inherited them. We absorbed them. They were passed down to us, not in a toolbox, but in a whisper, in the praise of a parent for good behavior, in the lessons of a teacher who taught us what success looks like, in the pages of the books we read and the films we watched that showed us what a life well lived is supposed to be. We picked up these tools, and we went to work, proud of our craftsmanship, never questioning if the tools themselves were shaping the outcome, dictating the form of our creation before we even made the first cut. This is the cage. It is not made of bars you can see. It is made of concepts you cannot touch. It is the invisible fence of the should. You should want a career. You should want a family. You should want a nice car, a respectable opinion, a planned retirement. Or, conversely, you should reject all of that. You should be a free spirit, unburdened by material concerns. But notice, both paths are already mapped. Both are defined. Both are choices from a menu. The cage is not the content of the choice. It is the very framework of choice itself. It is the unconscious agreement to play a game whose rules were written long before you arrived at the table. Your greatest act of freedom, building a stable, secure, meaningful life, might just be your most perfect enactment of a script written by culture, by history, by everyone and anyone except you. The philosopher points to a profound and unsettling freedom. It is not the freedom to choose between the options presented to you. That is merely the freedom to select your own cage. Real freedom is far more terrifying. It is the freedom to question the options themselves, to put down the tools, to look at the blueprint and say, I never agreed to this. To face the blank slate of your own existence without any instruction manual at all. This is a moment of pure, dizzying chaos. It is the feeling of the ground dissolving beneath your feet. It is the loss of all stability. And it is the only moment from which something genuinely new, something authentically yours, can ever be built. So, as you feel the solid weight of your life around you, the job, the relationships, the routines that grant you peace, I invite you to ask a gentle, not a destructive question. Not to tear it down, but to truly understand its architecture. Whose dream of stability are you living? Is this solid ground beneath your feet, or is it a beautifully crafted stage? The stability you cherish, does it make you feel more alive, or simply more secure? There is a difference, a profound one. For security is often the opposite of life. Life is risk. Life is improvisation. Life is sometimes unstable. To never touch that instability, to forever remain in the perfectly calibrated safety of a pre-approved life. Is that truly living? Or is it merely performing? The most comfortable cage is still a cage, and the door is unlocked. It always has been. The only thing that keeps you inside is the fear of what lies in the beautiful, terrifying, wide-open space beyond it. And that wide-open space, what is it? It is the realm beyond the satisfaction of our wants. It is the quiet, hollow sound that echoes in the aftermath of a victory. It is the question that arrives not in failure, but in success. Chapter 9. What silent music plays in the empty space between getting what you want and wanting what you get. We are engines of desire. Our lives are propelled forward by it, the wanting, the aching for something that is just out of reach, the promotion, the partner, the peace of mind, the perfect moment. We believe with every fiber of our being that the secret to happiness lies in the eventual satisfaction of these wants, that on the other side of that achievement, on the far shore of that struggle, we will find a stillness, a contentment, a final arrival. We imagine it as a quiet meadow where the noise of longing finally ceases. But what if we have it all backwards? What if the wanting is not the problem to be solved, but the solution itself? What if the meadow is empty, and the music we truly crave is not the silence of satisfaction, but the very melody of the chase? Think of a time you wanted something, truly wanted it. It consumed you. It gave your days a structure, an urgency. Every action was measured against it. Will this bring me closer to what I want? It was a thrilling, sometimes painful obsession. Now think of the moment you got it, the moment of triumph, the peak of the mountain. And recall what came after. The strange, quiet anticlimax, the slight frown that follows the celebration, the okay, now what, that whispers from the corner of your mind. The object of your desire, once obtained, becomes just another object. It loses its magic. Its shine was not its own. It was a reflection of your desire for it. Once you have it, the light of your wanting moves on, and you are left holding the mere thing, wondering why it doesn't feel the way you thought it would. This is the secret. Desire does not want to be satisfied. It wants to desire. The true object of desire is not the thing itself, but the wanting. The wanting gives our life meaning, direction, a story. It provides a delicious problem for us to solve. It saves us from the abyss of asking the far more terrifying question, what if this is all there is? The pursuit of the dream is often more fulfilling than the dream itself. The philosopher suggests that we don't actually want the things we think we want. We want the obstacle. We need the barrier, the resistance, because it gives our desire a shape, a form to push against. Without it, desire would collapse upon itself, and we would be forced to confront the fundamental emptiness at the core of our being. The terrifying and ultimately free realization that there is no final answer, no ultimate thing that will complete us. The silent music that plays in that empty space after a victory is the sound of that truth. It is the quiet hum of the void. It is unsettling. It can feel like failure, like depression. We often misinterpret it and immediately scramble to find a new thing to want, a new mountain to climb, just to escape the silence. But what if we didn't run? What if we stayed there, in that quiet, hollow moment? What if we listened to that music? It is the music of reality, uninterrupted by the stories we tell ourselves. It is not a music of despair, but of profound peace. It is the peace of realizing you are already complete. that you were complete even when you were wanting, that the wanting was just a game you were playing to make the journey interesting. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, consider your own desires, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Don't try to silence them. Just watch them, listen to them, see them for what they are, not guides to a hidden treasure, but the treasure itself, the beautiful, painful, exhilarating activity of being alive. The moment you get everything you want is the moment you lose everything you have, because what you have is the wanting. And that is enough. It is more than enough. It is everything. The silent music is not an enemy to be defeated. It is the deepest truth of your own being, waiting patiently for you to stop chasing after notes, so you can finally hear the symphony. Close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, not yet, but to listen, to the hum of the world outside your window, to the faint rhythm of your own heart. And in that quiet, can you hear it? A faint, persistent whisper, just behind the curtain of everything you know to be solid, to be real. It's the whisper of chaos, not the chaos of crashing cars and broken glass, but a deeper, more fundamental chaos, the kind that exists in the empty space between words, in the fleeting gap between one thought and the next. It's the chaos that the philosopher Slavoj Žižek points to, not with a trembling finger, but with a knowing, almost mischievous smile. He invites us to look not at the stage, but at the scaffolding holding it up, not at the dream, but at the desperate need to dream at all. Tonight, we accept that invitation, we step backstage, and we ask, in a hushed tone, the first of our quiet, dangerous questions. Chapter 10. What if the ghost in the machine is the only thing that's real? We are taught from such a young age to believe in the machine, the great, grinding, beautiful machine of society, of routine. You wake up, you brew your coffee, the rich aroma filling the kitchen, a small personal ritual. You drive a known route, the tires on the pavement, a familiar song. You perform your work, you exchange pleasantries, you navigate the intricate dance of expectations and polite smiles. This is the machine. It is elegant, it is efficient, it gives us rules, and in those rules, we are told, we find freedom. The freedom to participate, to belong, to be a functioning, respected cog in a magnificent clockwork universe. It feels solid, doesn't it? The weight of your key in your hand, the cool glass of your phone screen, the undeniable reality of a bank statement. This is real. This is what matters. But then, there's the ghost. It's not a specter from a Gothic novel. It's something far more subtle, far more pervasive. It's the strange, irrational jolt of anger you feel when someone jumps the queue, a fury utterly disproportionate to the tiny infraction. It's the inexplicable melancholy that descends on a sunny Tuesday afternoon, for no reason at all. It's the bizarre, nonsensical dream you had last night, where your childhood home had an extra room you'd never seen before, filled with whispering shadows. These are not malfunctions of the machine. They are proof of the ghost. Žižek would say that this messy, illogical, emotional, chaotic undercurrent, this is the real. The machine, the symbolic order we live in, is just a desperate collective fiction we've built to keep the ghost at bay, to give a name to the unnameable, to map the unchartable territory of our own desires and fears. Think of a man sitting in a spotless, minimalist apartment. Every line is clean, every surface uncluttered. The machine is perfect here. Order reigns. But then, his eye catches a single, tiny crack in the plaster near the ceiling. And instead of ignoring it or simply planning to fix it, he finds himself staring. That crack becomes a universe. It becomes a flaw in the perfect facade of his world. It whispers to him of instability, of decay, of a reality that cannot be contained by white walls and strict angles. That crack is the ghost. And in a strange way, it is more real, more authentic than the pristine perfection that surrounds it. It is a tiny puncture in the world of illusion, through which the messy truth of existence bleeds through. We spend our lives fearing the ghost. We medicate our anxieties. We therapize our quirks. We scroll through endless feeds of curated lives to reassure ourselves that the machine is working, that we are okay. We are so busy running from the chaos within us that we never stop to consider a terrifying yet liberating possibility. What if that chaos is not the enemy? What if it is the very core of what we are? The machine gives us a role to play, an identity to wear, the provider, the thinker, the strong one. But the ghost is what we are when no one is watching, not even ourselves. It is the raw, unprocessed hum of being. To acknowledge the ghost is to admit that the machine, for all its comfort, is a beautiful lie. And that admission can feel like vertigo. It can feel like standing at the edge of an abyss. But what is on the other side of that fear? What if, instead of trying to exorcise the ghost, we finally turned to face it, not as a monster, but as the most honest part of ourselves? What peace might be found in no longer having to pretend that the machine is everything, in recognizing that our moments of irrational joy, of sudden tears, of profound connection with a piece of music or a line of poetry, these are not aberrations. They are brief, dazzling encounters with the real. They are the ghost reminding us that we are alive, truly alive, beneath the layers of who we are supposed to be. The machine gives us a map to navigate the world, but the ghost is the territory itself, wild, unpredictable, and breathtakingly authentic. Perhaps reality isn't the polished floor of the apartment. Perhaps it is the glorious, undeniable truth of the crack. And so, we see that the structure we inhabit is perhaps more fragile than it appears, built not on bedrock, but on a consensus to look away from the cracks. But this leads us to a second, even more personal question. If the world is a kind of cage, a beautiful machine designed to hold the ghost at bay, then what does that say about our choices within it? What does it mean to be free inside its walls?